The impact of coronavirus on the global economy and the global fall in oil prices has continued to bite harder on the resources of oil-producing countries, particularly with OPEC and its partners agreeing to extend the current record of 9.7 million barrels per day to keep up with the emerging challenges in the economy. The program is the portfolio broadcast on NTA News 24 Abuja. I'm Comfort Amodu, and today we shall focus on World Bank's projection on global recession post-COVID-19. But first, let's take a look at the news highlights. Oil prices traded higher on Monday, with West Texas Intermediate futures increasing to 1% to about $39.9 a barrel, and Brent crude gaining more than 1% to $42.7 a barrel after OPEC and its allies, including Russia, agreed to extend the current record of 9.7 million barrels per day, curbed by one more month until the end of July. The OPEC also called for non-compliant countries such as Nigeria and Iraq, which surpassed production quotas in May and June, to compensate with further cuts in July to September. And consequently, the revenue accruable to Nigerian government from the sale of crude oil is estimated to drop by a collective sum of about 140 billion naira in May and June this year. The Board of Directors of the African Development Bank has approved Nigeria's country strategy paper for 2020 to 2024, which builds on the successes and challenges of the 2013 to 2019 edition. The Senior Director, AFDB, Ebrima Fall, assured that the bank will also support Nigeria to address economic shocks associated with COVID-19 and oil prices shocks. And meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says successful applicants to its COVID-19 targeted credit facility will be credited within 48 hours. It has advised all successful applicants whose accounts have not been credited to visit the website of Nicel Microfinance Bank at www.nmfb.com.ng and impute their account details for payment. CBN Director, Corporate Communications Department, Isaac Okorafo, who disclosed that CBN has waived the requirement for the provision of guarantors by households and small and medium enterprises applying for the credit facility, says applicants who do not receive a credit alert within 48 hours should call 090-100-26-900 for resolution. And those are the news highlights. Portfolio continues in a moment. Stay with us.
Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods, and services. So partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call Henry on 0803-379-0884 or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
Welcome back. With the impact of the coronavirus outbreak on a global scale, countries have taken measures to sustain the economy to fortify the real sector. And despite these measures, the World Bank projects that global economy will shrink by 5.2% this year. And that's representing the deepest recession since the Second World War, according to the bank's forecast in its June 2020 Global Economic Outlook. And economic activity among advanced economies is anticipated to shrink 7% in 2020 as domestic demand and supply, trade and financial finance have been severely disrupted. Well, we have with us in the studio a development economist, Simon Samson Galadima, to look at these issues and how Nigeria can come out of the impending recession. Welcome to this portfolio.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, let's begin right away. What are the implications of economic downturn projected by World Bank Group for emerging markets and developing countries, particularly that it's projected that emerging markets and developing countries will shrink by 2.5% this year?
Well, the impact is going to be far-reaching. Emerging markets and developing economies have been struggling, and with this pandemic, this health crisis, and with the accompanying economic pandemic as well, is going to hammer the economies of this country, and things are going to be tight. For a country like Nigeria, the fiscal space has been, the fiscal space has been tight and is going to get tighter. Our debt service is 60–70% of our revenue, and now we have to borrow some more to fix the economy, so things will likely get worse for us. And for the monetary policy, I think the two of them need to come together to support the most vulnerable within the economy, and then to see how we can have a sustainable and inclusive growth in the nearest future.
So how can African countries mitigate the shock projected by the Apex Bank?
Well, African economies, for any economy anywhere in the world, there are basically two tools: either monetary support or fiscal support. For the fiscal authorities in Nigeria, they have gone out and they have gone to the IMF, and they have gotten a facility of over $3 billion, and they are trying to reprioritize the budget. They are trying to see how they can set their priorities right, because when the budget was passed last year, what was important then may not be important now. And I think healthcare is going to take precedence over any other sector for now. And then for monetary policy, the CBN brought out a targeted loan, particularly for households and businesses. Though if you consider the stimulus packages that we have in Nigeria and other developing economies, they're just a drop in the bucket. People have gone far. I know of an economy that has stimulus, 30% of GDP. Ours is nothing to write home about. It's less than 1%. It's quite insignificant, but it's better small than nothing.
Okay, so I actually believe that the pandemic has opened up lots of windows of opportunity. So where do you think Nigeria will go from here? Because I believe there should be a lesson that have been learned from the pandemic.
Yes, there's this saying that you should not allow a crisis to go to waste. I think if we can really up our game, if we can really try to see how we can make use of this crisis, we can reduce our subsidy and see how we can diversify our economy away from oil. Our dependence on oil has been our Achilles heel. It has been an albatross around our neck, and we have been paying lip service to diversification. We need to take it seriously. This is an opportunity to possibly withdraw these subsidies, and then when things improve, we can completely ensure that we deepen the reforms that we need to embark upon, particularly structural reform, so that our dependence on oil can be drastically reduced. Our GDP is highly diversified. Oil contributes a small fraction, but our revenue base, that's where the problem is. We still so much depend on oil, and we need to stay away from that.
Okay, talking about oil, what do you think about the further cuts by the OPEC?
All right, the cuts are actually good. I remember at the height of, as the IMF chief economist will say, the great lockdown. Things were really tight, and the demand in crude went down 30%, and then Russia and the Saudis were fighting over what should happen and what shouldn't. To the extent that they decided to play a game of chicken. They wanted to, and they actually made good on their promise. They flooded the international market, and then price further created. I remember the WTI, one of the most important indices, crashed to -40 a time. And then the Brent crude went to under 20. And our own Bunelite also was really on its knees. But thank God they have come to their senses. They have met, and the OPEC Plus, as they call themselves now, have decided to cut supply by 10%. So with the reopening of the global economy, things will improve. That's why we're seeing the prices are climbing, which is good for a country like ours. But this is not something that we can do in perpetuity. We need to stay away from it. We need to stay away from oil. We need to look for alternative sources of revenue. We need to look for alternative foreign exchange earners, because 90% of our foreign exchange is oil. So when oil is down, we get
So are you
battered.
invariably saying it's not safe for Nigeria to cut further on its production?
I think the cutting is just a temporary solution. I feel in the immediate time is okay, because we're in an emergency, and anything we can do to help the situation is okay. But in the long term, and we need to start now, we cannot keep on kicking the can down the road. It's not in our best interests.
Okay, so let's look at foreign direct investment now. What's the implementation on FDI?
Well, the way the economy is, there's so much uncertainty, and investments, whether portfolio investment or foreign direct investments, will likely dwindle. Even remittances, so people that have relatives or loved ones abroad, day-to-day struggling, so it's not going to be easy. And when there is uncertainty, it diminishes either investment or consumer business confidence. So it may likely take a while for us to see things actually improve, because everybody is watching now, is seeing how things will play out. They are not even sure. The analogy people normally make between this is the great Spanish flu of 1918, and the second wave was worse than the first. So we're not saying second wave will come, but the possibility is there, is still looming on the horizon. The specter is there. So one cannot just rush into an investment when there's so much uncertainty. It's not normally wise to do so.
All right. There's been projections of a sharp decline in regional trade. What's your take on how it will affect Africa, especially ECOWAS region?
Well, if you look at the African region, the West African subcontinent, the trade amongst ourselves is actually next to nothing. It's not much. We trade more with the outside world than we do amongst ourselves. That was why they brought the idea of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, to see if they can boost trade amongst African countries. So the impact to our trade is going to be because of our partners abroad, maybe in Europe, China and other countries, not between ourselves here in Africa or amongst ourselves.
Okay, so let me take you back a little bit. So now that oil prices have plummeted, can other sectors offset the imbalance?
I don't think the oil is like the backbone. It's like the mainstay of our economy. Unless, as far as revenue is concerned, I don't think other sectors can do that. Other sectors cannot. Maybe in future, if we can start working now, in future is possible. But at the moment, I don't think. Maybe they can keep on borrowing, which is not actually good. We are talking about 70% of our revenue going to debt servicing. Maybe if we keep borrowing, we have everything we generate as revenue goes to debt servicing, and we live on borrowed money, which is beyond terrible, beyond parlous.
So what other options do Nigeria have to turn their attention to away from oil, considering the current challenge? We need fire the chain reforms. We need to, structural reforms. We need to diversify. I'm just getting tired. We keep saying diversify, diversify. We don't, unfortunately. People in power, policymakers, don't take it seriously because it's actually difficult. It's very difficult. But when you have a leader that is willing to take the bull by the horns and is willing to do the right thing, even he damns the consequences and he does what is right, what is in the best interest of his own people, I think such a leader will go down in history as maybe the best leader we can ever have in this country. So quickly now, interruptions in schooling and primary healthcare is projected to have lasting impact. And what would be the best solution to restructure these sectors for optimal performance? Let me have your closing thoughts on that.
All right. One of the impacts of this pandemic, this global recession, is that human capital will be eroded because many people have lost their jobs already. I was seeing the ILO, International Labour Organization, report that half of the world's labor force, that's 1.5 billion people, will lose their jobs. And then schools again are shut down, and we don't know when they will reopen. I was reading in Israel, they reopened some schools, and then the infection rates went up and they had to shut down again. So I think if people can explore online platforms, that will help. But online platforms are not perfect suit for actually face-to-face classes. They can never replace, at least for now. I don't know.
The fact is, we are not sure of when the whole pandemic issue will be over. So basically, most economies and even schools are relying on online now for everything.
We don't have a choice. For now, we have to do that because the alternative is not doing it at all. But it's not going to make up. It's not like you cannot replace it because face-to-face interaction is better. Maybe with time, we can innovate ways that online classes will be like physical ones, and maybe if we have better network, like in Nigeria, you use Zoom basically for online classes or Google Meet. The network is terrible and it keeps breaking. At the end of the day, the productivity is next to nothing. So if things will improve, maybe it will be a good substitute. Online classes can be a good substitute for face-to-face classes. But for now, I don't think it is.
Thank you very much for the great insight there and always being on the portfolio.
Thank you so much.
All right, I've been speaking with the development economist, Simon Samson Galadiba. Many thanks for your insight there. Now let's take a look at the capital market performance in the past week with Bossady Abel.
Hello and welcome to the market segment, and this is the review for week ended 5th June. At a turnover of 1.4 billion shares worth 23.5 billion naira in 22,911 deals were traded last week by investors on the floor of the exchange. The NSE All-Share Index depreciated by 1.00% to close the week at 25,016.30, while market capitalization dropped by 0.90 to close at 13 trillion naira. All other indices finished lower, with the exception of NSE Afri Viewed and NSE Consumer Goods Indices, which appreciated by 1.20% and 0.26%, while the NSE ASEM Index closed flat. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 861.7 million shares valued at 8.5 billion naira traded in 11,647 deals. The consumer goods industry followed with 184.6 million shares worth 5.8 billion naira. The third place was the services industry. FBN Holdings, Guarantee Trust Bank and Zenith Bank were the top three equities for the week, accounted for 456.5 million shares worth 6.9 billion naira in 5,921 deals, a total of 288,112 units of exchange-traded products, ETPs, valued at 3.9 were traded in 9 deals, as well as 2,785 units of federal government bonds valued at 3.116 million naira. 26 equities appreciated in price during the week, 39 equities depreciated in price, while 98 equities remained unchanged. And on the foreign scene, as countries across the globe continue to ease quarantine restrictions caused by the deadly coronavirus, global economies' operations have begun to normalize, and the world strives to contain the pandemic. Equities skyrocketed on the back of a surprise surge in U.S. employment, as the Labor Department said Friday that economy added 2 0.5 million jobs in May. Meanwhile, in early trading of 8th June, the U.S. stock futures were higher, building on previous week's sharp gains on optimism over the economy reopening. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures rose 194 points. The move implied an opening gain of about 829 points. S&P 500 futures jumped 2.62 points, and the Nasdaq Composite futures also was up 2.06%. Stocks in Asia were higher after U.S. jobs data released Friday showed an unexpected jump, spurring hopes of an economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. Nikkei added 1.37% to close at 23,178.10. Shanghai Composite up 0.24% to 2,937.77, while the Hang Seng Index was fractionally higher as of its final hour of trading. European stocks traded slightly lower as markets weigh an economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic and ongoing global protests against racism. FTSE appreciated by 0.13%, while DAX low by 0.32% and CAC 40 0.30%. Africa's equities were mostly mixed. Namibia's overall index topped 0.58%, and Ghana's GSE Composite also added 0.67%, while South Africa's GSE Africa Top 40, Nairobi's All Share, and Tunisia's Tunidex depreciated. That was the markets review for 5th June. I am Bosede Abel.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, has been declared by the World Health Organization as a global pandemic. While clinical trials are ongoing for a vaccine and a possible cure, there is no known treatment for the coronavirus. Nigeria has recorded some of these cases, and people are advised to take these preventive measures to keep themselves safe and contain the further spread of the virus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use hand sanitizers all the time. Maintain social distancing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Practice respiratory hygiene. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Do not panic. Stop the spread of unconfirmed news. Follow the official government news outlets and report all cases immediately. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Thanks, Bosede, for that update from the capital markets there. And with that, we conclude the portfolio for the week. Please endeavor to stay safe while you're practicing social distancing. Comfort and Modu, ensure to keep the mails coming on those media handles displayed on your screen. Do have yourself a lovely, wonderful week.